a joy that you have found us for this podcast. How exciting it is to think that this spiritual message is going out to people around this planet. Whether your life is working at a peak level or whether it can use some enhancement, have I got the message for you today. So get a piece of paper, get ready to take notes, call a friend, have them watch this podcast also. Then you too can have something to talk about and take it to a deeper level. So enjoy. Here we go. Very nice. Hey, good morning, Seaside. What a joy it is to be with you on this fabulous day. This is Mother's Day, and happy Mother's Day to all you moms. Good to see you, and really good to see the kids that are here that we haven't seen since last Mother's Day. So it's a fun one, that's for sure. And Mother's Day just opens my heart and makes me think about that very special bond, relationship. That's something that a mother shares with her child is one of the most magical things that exists upon our planet in terms of that God exchange between two people. And I've heard moms say, you know, the moms do the best they can with what they've got, and then they trust God with the rest of it. And to be able to do what they can and to guide them the best they can and still have that magical relationship is a testimony to the mystical, magical realm beyond. And Marv has got a little clip here of all the things a mom gets to do, and their child still loves them when it's all said and done. So.
Get up out of bed, wash your face, brush your teeth, comb your sleepy head. Here's your clothes and your shoes, hear the words I said. Get up now, get up and make your bed. Are you hot, are you cold, are you wearing that? Where's your books and your lunch and your homework at? Grab your coat and your gloves and your scarf. The reason why, because, I said so, I said so, I said so, I said so. I'm the mom, the mom, the mom, the mom, the mom. Ta-da!
Moms, you are amazing. Moms are amazing. Oh my goodness. And we love because of all that. And really, that is the paradox of compassion. This morning's message is about compassion, one of those timeless truths. And it's because of the compassion, moms can guide us into the world with such strength. And there's still that respect and that love. The thing about compassion is it's mysterious. It is paradoxical because compassion absolutely accepts life as perfect as the way it is. And yet at the same time will give all its heart to change things. You know, compassion is our ability to be joyful in the midst of suffering, be hopeful in the midst of overwhelming despair. It is our ability to be able to be simple in a world of complexity. It is do unto others and yet to remember to nurture ourselves in the process. And as we begin to love and we begin to have compassion, what happens is our heart opens up. And as our heart opens up and we have that rising spirit within our soul, we begin to look at ourselves maybe in those areas in which we were not willing to do before. And with compassion, willing to look at those areas that may have been a little angry or a little afraid or a little bit with greed. And as we work on ourselves and realize the mistakes we may have made, it even opens us more to express the compassion in life. And compassion is really a natural state. One of the classic stories about compassion is that story of a mom waiting for her daughter to come home from elementary school, and her daughter was running late, and mom was getting a little anxious, she was getting a little upset, getting a little worried, and finally when her daughter walked in, she said, "Where have you been?" And the daughter said, "Well, I was walking home with Julie, and we got about halfway home, and Julie dropped her doll, and her doll broke into many pieces." And mom said, "And so you helped her put the doll back together?" And he said, "No, Mom, we couldn't put that many pieces together. I just sat down and I cried with her." Oh, yeah, that's compassion. You know, that spirit that is expressing itself in ways that are natural and real and caring. You know, the Dalai Lama said that if you want to make somebody happy, practice compassion. You want to make yourself happy? Practice compassion. Compassion is that which gets you outside of yourself. Compassion is that what opens you up and helps you to understand and to realize that everybody, as they're walking through this world, is going to stumble sometime or another. They're going to trip, they're going to make their mistakes, and that we don't have this passage through life that is simple, easy, and no problem, which would be nice. But what happens is, as we're going through this world, it's not all easy. We have the ups and we have the downs, and compassion allows us to understand and to be there for somebody as they're going through those difficult times, and to assist them and to love them and to offer a hand and realize people are doing the best with what they have been given and trusting God with the rest. That compassion is being able to open our hearts and be absolutely present for that individual and realize that if everything is going your way, you're probably on the wrong side of the road watching the traffic come at you. Yeah. And so when you got those boulders or those pebbles or those stones thrown in your way, you get to decide, what am I going to do with this? Am I going to build a wall around me so I'm protected so the world can't get in and I'm safe? Or am I going to use those stones to build a bridge from where I am to what's out there? You get to decide. See, what compassion will do is compassion opens your heart. And as your heart opens up, as you begin to practice compassion, you realize the oneness of all people. You realize the oneness of life. You realize that we're all connected, that humanity is one, and that we're all brothers and sisters upon this planet. We're all on our individual paths, and we're still united. There's that sense of oneness. Our president came out with an amazing statement this week when he supported gay marriages. And and it was big. And yet it is interesting to watch how they can make marriage equality a political issue when the truth is it's a human rights issue, and human rights is a spiritual issue. And how can you take that which is spiritual and flip it into a political thing? But yet how blessed we are that we're part of a community that believes in oneness, that believes in equality, that believes in inclusivity, that we're truly an open and affirming spiritual community where all individuals are welcome as they are journeying through this life, and we're coming to recognize our connectedness with our brothers and sisters and having a compassion and realize that it's not easy all the time for anybody in this world. And it doesn't matter if you're rich or you're poor, if you're brilliant or ignorant or beautiful or not. We all have the difficulties, and the beauty of community is to have a family that says, I care about you. We are a caring spiritual community that is here for one another on our path. And so as we care and as we love, our heart begins to open up, and we begin to realize that sometimes we take the issues in life and we just spin them in our heads, and not from a place of compassion and not from the place of our heart, but rather our head gets into it, and we start, we just start thinking things that are less than compassionate, but our head thinks it's logical. And a wonderful example, I don't know wonderful, but an example of this is a guy that I heard about who he had a flat tire driving down a country road. And he pulled over, he went to fix his flat tire, and he didn't have a jack for his car. And he saw a farmhouse off in the distance, and he thought, well, I'll go ask the guy, if he has a jack that I could borrow. So he gets out, and he starts walking towards the farmhouse, and he starts thinking, well, I wonder if, I hope he has a jack, but I guess everybody has, a jack who's at home. I hope he'll lend it to me. But what if he doesn't lend it to me? Well, if he doesn't lend it to me, maybe I'll give him a few bucks. And he starts thinking, but what's a few bucks? What's fair? Maybe $5 to borrow the jack. But what happens if he wants 10? Now that wouldn't be fair. He'd be taking advantage of me because I'm be stuck. Well, 10, maybe he wants 20 from me. Maybe he wants all the money I've got. I wonder how much money I have. I got $65. He wants $65 for that jack? I can't believe that he's taking advantage of a person in distress, and his anger's growing as he's getting more irate as he's walking up there. And he gets to the house, and he knocks on the door, and the nice, friendly farmer opens the screen door and says, hi, how's it going? How may I help you? And that guy whose face is just red said, hey, keep your crummy jack, and you know what you can do with it, and slammed the door and stormed off. Now, that's not compassion for oneself. You know, we've got to be compassionate with ourselves as well. We have got to be willing to love ourselves and to be understanding and be willing to be there in those times of questioning and growing and discovery and exploration, and to share that journey with another. There was a mom who was going to have her third child, and she and her husband sat down with their oldest son of 4, Brian, and said, "Hey, Brian, we're going to have a new baby." And Brian said, "But I don't want a new baby." And mom and dad, you know, they said, we lived through the sibling rivalry between Brian and his younger brother, Tom. We made it through that one. And so they tried to convince Brian, you know, that that's a good thing. And there was no persuasion, no logic, no explanation that would change Brian's mind. And so mom finally says, "Brian, you know, why don't you want a new baby?" He said, eyes wide, tears coming down, "Because I like the one I've got and I don't want to give Tom back." But see, that's what the logical mind will do. And sometimes we're coming from that child's perspective, and we're stuck in our position, and we're not opening our heart. We're not allowing the compassion to guide us and to direct us forward. We're not allowing the compassion to move us in a direction that is empowering. What compassion does is it lifts you up. It moves you to a higher place, and it allows you to be there for yourself. It allows you to be there for another human being. You know, there was a guy came into home from college. It was 1975. He was a college kid. He came home, and to visit his mom, who she was working in the beauty salon, and she came on in and saw one of the regular customers, Mrs. Green, and he said hello, and he sat down in the chair. Mrs. Ruth Green just stared at him. Didn't take her eyes off of him, just was fixated on him. And he's getting a little nervous. And finally, she pulls the hairdryer off her head, says, "Give me a piece of paper and a pen." And she grabs it, and she starts scribbling down something. And then she hands it to his kid and said, "Denzel, I want you to know that you're going to speak to 1 million people. You're going to travel the world, and you're going to make a positive difference in this world." And so Denzel Washington was a little taken by surprise, but he took that piece of paper and he folded it up and he put it in his pocket and in his heart. And he says that many times after that, when his acting career was down or something, that he would take it out and he would look at it, and it would remind him that he could do it. And that Academy Award winner has gone on to make a positive difference in the world. And it makes me think about what a difference it would have made if someone who had been parenting had said something valuable to kids that struggled. And rather, "Hey, you're not going to amount to anything," but rather, "Hey, I love you. You've got a potential inside you," that had the compassion to see, you know what, you're going to be great. You're going to make a difference in the world. You're going to be a positive influence on millions of people. And they chose to believe that. I take a look at our prison system today, and our prison system is messed up. We have way too many people incarcerated that should not even be there. Something out of alignment within our society that incarcerates that many individuals. But there's a statistic I saw, whether it's true or not, I'm not sure, but it's valid enough to share, that it said 75% of the individuals that are incarcerated, when asked about their childhood, said that 75% said that either their parent or their guardian or a person of influence told them when they were a child that they would end up in jail someday, that they weren't going to amount to much. And that was the seed that was planted within that young consciousness, in that young heart. What kind of seeds are you planting in the young? Imagine, just think about what would have happened. Someone had enough compassion to tell those kids, "You're great. You're going to be a positive difference in the world." What kind of shift would have taken place inside of their heart and their soul? Maybe they would have ended up being a teacher, a doctor, an entrepreneur, someone bringing forth a sustainable economy or making a difference in the world in which we live. Had somebody planted that seed from a compassionate heart as opposed to a logical mind, says, "You're blowing it, kid. And where you're going to end up is not a very good place." Are you able to reverse that? By starting to plant positive seeds in individuals. Hey, I see the Christ presence in you. I see the potential in you. You are a magnificent expression of God in this world. Go out and multiply that. Because not everybody can take some garbage sent to them and turn it into gold. Not everybody has the ability of that kind of alchemy. Sometimes we need to assist people as they move forward in life. Reggie Jackson, one of the great home run hitters of all time in baseball, called Mr. October for his ability to hit the home runs in the big playoff games, said that a great manager is one who sees your potential and your greatness and convinces you of your ability, even when you don't know it is there, and convinces you that you have it, so you go out there and discover you have abilities you never knew you had. That's what a great coach does. That's what a parent planting the right seeds does. That's what you do when you're able to look at another human being with a compassionate heart and realize, I don't know what they're going through or what they've gone through, but there is a presence there. There's a loving something there. There is that expression of the divine that moves in their life, and I'm going to see it. I'm going to be the one who calls it forth and know that they will go forth into this world and multiply it and bring it forth. I'm not going to get caught up in the logical spinning of the mind going in the wrong direction. There was a junior high school teacher, Helen was her name, from Minnesota. She was a math teacher, and she was introducing a new math concept to the kids. And she spent the full week trying to get this new formula across, and by the time Friday arrived, the kids were exhausted, frustrated, rowdy. They just were not into the lessons anymore. And she said, you know what, guys, I'll tell you what. I just want you to clear your desks, put your books away, get out a clean piece of paper and a pencil. And what I want you to do, on the left-hand side of that paper, I want you to write down all your classmates' names. And then on the right-hand side, I want you to just write down one thing you like about them. I got to tell you, instantly the energy of that room lifted, just boom. Sounds like our foundation class here, that we do that exercise. You know? But the kids, this was new. They were giggling and like looking, pointing, looking up. And when the bell rang for the weekend, those kids went off happier and higher than ever before. They left the paper for his teacher. The teacher, the next couple days of the weekend, took them, organized them, wrote each student's name at the top, took the 30 things liked and put them on a piece of paper, and on Monday handed the students the things that the other kids liked about them. And not only did she lift the energy on that particular Friday, but what she did that she didn't know she was doing, she lifted their self-esteem. She lifted their confidence, because when they read that letter, they said, wow, I didn't know that person liked me. I didn't know they thought I was beautiful. Whoa, this is cool. And what's interesting part of this story is 10 years later, she received an invitation to one of her favorite student, Mark's a memorial service. He was killed in the war. And on the invitation to the funeral, the parents wrote a note and said they'd sure like her to stop by the farmhouse after the service. And so after the service, Helen went by the farmhouse, and the parents greeted her at the front door, and they called her over to the side and said, we want to show you something. And the dad went and got his son's wallet that he had on him. And out of the wallet, he pulled this folded up, yellowed, taped together many times piece of paper, and when Helen saw it was her handwriting from that day, she just broke out in tears. And Mom said, you don't know what a difference this piece of paper made to my son throughout his life. Obviously, you can see the impact it had on him. And she walked into the kitchen where his classmates were from junior high, the same class, they were all close, and Dad was still holding that piece of paper. And do you know, that group one by one started pulling out of their wallets and their purse the same piece of paper. And those that couldn't produce it there said, you know what, I've got it in a file or a drawer or an album at home. That's the difference we make. When we choose to see the good in another person, it lodges itself in the heart. And so that's what compassion does. It allows you to see with the eyes of love. It allows you to see with the eyes of a mom who's able to see beyond the mistakes and the blunders and the challenges and understands that life is not easy all the time and that everyone has the difficulties that they're going on. But there is someone there who is able to see the greatness that is within you, that is able to know and to lift you up and to be strong at the same time. You know, all the things mom's got to do, we saw that up there. It's like crazy. For sure. Teaching. There was there was a 5th grade teacher who gave an assignment to her kids. And you might remember the story because I've probably shared it. But she said, I want you to go home. I want your parents to give you a story with a moral and come back and share that. So the next day, the kids came back and they all shared in 5th grade their morals that their parents had given them. And Janie was one who didn't share, and the teacher notes, hey, Janie, didn't your parents give you a story with a moral? And Janie said, yeah, my dad gave me one. And he said, well, what is it? Well, he said that when my mom was a Marine and she was fighting in the war, her plane got shot down. And when she jumped out of the plane, all she had was a bottle of whiskey, a pistol, and a pocket knife. And so as she was going down, she drank the whiskey so the bottle wouldn't shatter and break when she landed. And when her parachute landed her on the ground, it was right in the midst of 20 of the enemies. And so with her pistol, she shot 15 of them until she ran out of bullets. Then she took her pocket knife and took care of another 4 of the 5. And the last one she just eliminated with her hands. The teacher was blown away and horrified and said, oh my goodness. And was there a moral to that story? And she said, yeah. And what is it? And she said, well, Dad said, don't mess with Mom when she's been drinking. Moms have an ability to be strong. Who knows where they learned it? But it is that mama bear, it is that strength that comes from a place of compassion that knows that is assisting us to get on our path so we can walk through this world and face the adversities and the challenges that this life may put before us and realize that everybody has their own stuff they get to work with. And if we didn't get it from childhood, life will give us the opportunity to hone our skills. And when I can choose to see with the eyes of compassion as opposed to a logical mind that spins out of alignment and gets wacko and crazy and makes up these stories about a guy who's not going to lend me the jack, it's like, calm down. There was someone who once asked their spiritual teacher, you know, if I get it calmed down and I'm coming from a place of compassion, I don't have greed and I don't have desire, is life going to be dull? I'm going to live kind of in this gray kind of world. The teacher said, no. That's when you see clearly. That's when the world is brighter. That's when you begin to see the more possibilities and things are fresh and you're present and you hear the Spirit speaking and you have greater options because you are not coming through the filters that has had you acting in a kind of way. And so the student said, so what should I do to get there? Should I just come live here in the ashram? And I said, no. You don't want to stay in the ashram. Your assignment is to go home, to do the dishes, do the laundry, take your kid to kindergarten, take your grandchildren to school, and be and practice right where you are. That's our assignment, is to bring compassion right where we are. And Seaside is a community that's committed to passion, that is caring, that is loving, that embraces all individuals. And as we are on our path and we're here for each other, I want to remind us when somebody is going through their pain and their difficulty, not to say, oh boy, I sure understand. I know what it is you're going through. You know, I've lost a mom or dad or parents. Or you don't know what somebody else is going through. I'm just giving you a heads up right now. You know, you do not know. You haven't walked in their shoes. You haven't had their experiences. You're not coming from their sense of guilt or their. You don't know. And to say you know, it almost puts up the wall. Even though you're coming from a good place, what you do have, what we do have, what I have to offer is, you know what, I'm willing to be there with you. I'm willing to sit with you. I'm here, you know, for you to share whenever it is you want to share. I'm not going to rush you through your grief, your pain, your loss, however long it takes, no matter where you are. I'm here. I'm available. You can call. We can laugh together. We can go through memories together. And maybe I will, you know, come to hear what you are going through. But I can't understand. And when you're willing to be there for another without the judgment or trying to make it better and giving the individual however long it takes to go through those difficult times as they move those stones so they can become bridges, there's a healing, there's a bond, there's a love that only compassion can bring. Because we all have our different experiences and things. I mean, Callie and I, you've heard me share us talk about our son who has some unique needs. I can remember in the early days when people would ask, hey, what's that like? Callie shared with me a wonderful writing from a lady who compared a child with special needs kind of like going on vacation. Actually, she compared it to childbirth in the sense. She said, giving birth to a child is like going on a grand vacation, where you go out and you buy the guidebooks, you make the plans. Let's say you're going to Italy, you plan Colosseum, Michelangelo's David, the gondola ride. You learn some of the phrases in Italian so you can speak the language, and you wait with great anticipation, and finally that day arrives, and you get on the plane. Hours later, you land, and the flight attendant comes on over and says, "Welcome to Holland." And you go, "Holland? I wasn't going to Holland. I wasn't planning on going to Holland." You know, that was not, I've been dreaming about Italy all my life. You know, I've been dreaming about a child all my life. I've been dreaming about Italy all my life, and now I have landed in Holland, and now you don't have a choice. You have to get off the plane. Now, the important thing to remember is that it's not a bad, horrible, filthy place with pestilence and famine and disease. It's just a different place. It's different. You know? So you go out and you get new guidebooks. You learn a new language. You make new friends that you would never have made otherwise. And as much as you had always wanted to go to Italy, and where Italy has a lot more glitz and flamboyance, you're in Holland. And as you breathe and you relax and look around, you realize, you know what? Holland's got windmills. It's got tulips. It's got Rembrandt. But yet all your friends are still coming and going from Italy, and they're bragging about all their experience there, and your heart goes, yeah, and I had planned on going to Italy. I wanted to go to Italy. I dreamt of going to Italy. And what I want you to understand is that dream will never, ever, ever vanish. There will always be a very, very significant loss in one's life. But what's important is to realize that if I can get beyond that loss, then I'm free to enjoy the beauty of Holland. I'm free to enjoy the beauty of life that is before me. I'm able to enjoy the change. I'm able to enjoy the unfoldment of what Spirit. To have enough compassion for myself or my life or for another human being is to be there and realize that this is where I am in my life, and this is what is before me, and this is my spiritual practice, and this is the place that I get to play. And so as we listen to our heart and our soul, as opposed to a logical mind says, this is what I wanted and this is the way it should be, but rather I begin to see, how does God show up here in my life? And I thank my mom for just honoring me. You know, this Mother's Day, I think about her, and I just listen to how she championed me on with Trevor and relationship and life, and how proud she was and is of me and all that I accomplished. And one of the things she says, and it's not what you have accomplished that matters, it's what you are becoming. So as life throws its pieces at us, we may not be prepared for the test because we haven't studied yet the lesson. But what I know is you have what it takes. And I thank my mom at this time when I think about her for preparing me for whatever it is that life has. And I think about her, how she used to come to our front door, and we would, open up the front door. I don't know, it could be a blistering winter day or a birthday, and she'd always be standing there with a pillow under one arm and a bag of goodies or groceries or presents under the other one. And she would walk into that house with the wind blowing through that front door, and we would sit down, and she would pull out of the bag her bottle of wine or her cheese or her present or my red vine licorice she had wrapped up, or a card that had money so we could go out and buy a couch, and I would go through all these goodies. And as I think about that today, what I realize is if I could open that door again and find her standing there, I would just walk her into the kitchen again. And I wouldn't rush into opening up those presents that she brought, because I would realize that the biggest present I opened when I opened that front door and the wind was blowing in her hair and she was standing there with her pillow. And what I know is that kind of love transcends time. It transcends space. What I know is that kind of connection united us in this world and will surely unite us again. And as we think about our moms in this world who have moved on, I also want to remind the moms about their little babies that are no longer little because they have grown also. And there's just this fun little clip I want to end with that Marv will play for you about watching your little child grow and how quickly time passes. And just a couple minutes. Happy Mother's Day. May the memories live on within your hearts. I love you. Again, a lot of heart and soul and passion. Divine love through me blesses and multiplies all that I am, all that I give, and all that I receive. I am prosperous now. Hey, I trust you enjoyed that podcast. It was very exciting to be able to create that and to know that there are people like you all around the world that are observing and integrating these spiritual principles into their life. And so if you enjoyed it, what I'd like to do is encourage you to tell a friend or bring several friends together and watch another one of these podcasts. And then afterwards, take some time to talk about the spiritual principles, to talk about the stories and what significance they have and relevance they have in your life. What then happens is it moves to a deeper and deeper level in your world. It becomes real and assists you to create the freedom in your life that your heart and soul so desire. So if you like this, I encourage you to watch it again, but also tune into our website here at seasidecenter.org. There, you can get some of my written material and take a look at it. You can read some of my spiritual prayers. You can even go to our online bookstore and order some of the books. And if you're so moved, what I greatly would appreciate is your financial support, which you could do online at seasidecenter.org. It is support like yours that assists us to be able to continue to do these kinds of gifts for humanity and send it out to the world. Because you know what? We are making a difference with this spiritual message. And because of support like yours, people are being touched in the farthest reaches of this planet, as well as our backyard, more than we could ever begin to realize. So I thank you from the fullness of my heart for making a difference.